So welcome to In Irma's Kitchen again at the Clam Man.
And my name is John.
This is John, and we're going to make fish today. We're going to do everything with a little different twist. We're going to have fish and chips, but we're not going to deep fry anything. So John is going to tell us a little bit about our local fish. We have cod and...
Yeah, cod, swordfish, striped bass, local bluefish. The canyons are producing mahi right now, and bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, all excellent qualities. The cod that you're going to get today is out of Chatham, all right, and it's going to bake up well. You're probably going to use a hot temperature.
500.
Right, because you're going to be frying it in the oven.
Right.
Not in oil.
Right. Just 3 tablespoons of oil. So show us what a real fresh piece of fish looks like.
Okay.
I bet you have great knives.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, that is gorgeous.
Nice pieces.
Yep. They make their own crumbs. I don't know what they put in them, but they're really delicious. So sometimes when I bake cod fish, all I do is put some olive oil on it, sprinkle some of the crumbs, put it into a hot oven, 425 degrees, and bake it for 18 minutes. Cod takes a little bit longer than other fish because it's thicker. But they make delicious. Here it says cracker crumbs, butter, salt, garlic, something I can't pronounce, oregano, black pepper, and turmeric. Good morning. We're back in Irma's kitchen. We spent a little bit of time this morning at the Clam Man, and we heard John talk about our local fish, which is really very fresh and very delicious. When I've lived in other parts of the country, we had to rely on frozen fish or fish that had been frozen and then thawed, and it was never quite the same. So when we moved back to the Cape, I was very thrilled to always have fresh fish. So I thought that we would make fish and chips today with a little twist. Instead of frying it in a deep fryer, we're going to actually oven fry it. We're going to have French fries that are not fried. They are also oven fried. I'm going to make a coleslaw that is not mayonnaise-y, and we're going to have brownies for dessert that are just a little different shape. So let's get started on our brownies first, because if all else fails, we at least have dessert. So instead of putting it into a square pan and having square brownies, I'm going to use my little muffin tin. So I'm going to use Pam. I like Pam. It's also easier than trying to butter each one individually. And that way, everybody can have an edge and a soft center. People love edges. So we're going to prepare our pan. So in here, I have some water. And I have a glass bowl. You can use metal or whatever you want. Don't use plastic, though. And we're going to use half a stick of butter. And we're going to use 3 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. So this is how they have now given us our chocolate. So this is 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounces right here. So it's really very easy to break off. And I'm going to break it. Put it in. So we're just melting it. I prefer the old way of having the chocolate, but since I don't own bakers, they don't care what I think. So we're going to let it melt into my trusty sink. And we're going to prepare our other things. So we need 2 eggs, too large, not extra large. Each size egg is a different volume, of course. So all the recipes are large eggs. I use brown eggs because I like brown eggs. I was brought up with brown eggs, except for the time I lived in the Midwest when I had to have white eggs, and I never saw a white egg in my life, but I got used to it. But now that I'm back east, we can use brown eggs. You crack one at a time, make sure it's okay. And then we're going to have the flour. So we need 2/3 of a cup of flour. So make sure I have my third measuring cup. Remember how I told you to make flour? Fluff it up a little. Don't shake it, and then just smooth it off with your fingers. Get rid of it. And so we have our eggs, our flour, and our sugar is going to go in here. Let's give it a little mix, see how we're doing. The water is just barely simmering. You don't want it to have a full hard boil because it will it will do something to the chocolate that will not be good. I don't know what the word is. If somebody knows it, call into Falmouth Community TV and they'll pass it on to me. So we had 2 successful shows last year. I got a lot of comments, and we've tried to improve on some things. One of the things that we improved on this year is our lighting, which is really wonderful. We won't have reflection from the back, which was a comment. Somebody told me they didn't like my hair flopping in my face, so I got a haircut, and I have a clip. And so I listen to what you tell me. So if you have any ideas of things that you would like, just call into Falmouth Community TV and they will pass the message on to me. So the brownies that we're making are really very easy. Brownies are very easy. Anybody can make a brownie. Although I must say that the mixes are very good. I went to a party and had delicious brownies, and I asked the woman for the recipe. She laughed and she said they were Duncan Hines. My daughter makes the best brownies. Hers a Ghirardelli package. So it is easy to make them either way. Both my daughter and this friend add things to it. They do different things. So it makes it their own in a way. But brownies from scratch are easy. Right here I have a pan that has water in the bottom, maybe an inch. And the water is just barely simmering. And I have a glass pitcher kind of bowl here because I'm going to be pouring. And it's melting the butter and the chocolate. And you add the sugar, which immediately cools it down. Then you add your eggs one at a time, and then you add your salt and your vanilla, and then you add your flour, and it's done. You can add chocolate chips, you can add white chips, you can add peanut butter chips, you can add pecans, you can add walnuts. These are plain. Partly because I'm using such a small pan, I don't want to take it up with other stuff. I just want to taste the brownie. This took about 5 minutes. Be careful when you take it off. My handle is hot, but if you don't have handles, you should probably use oven mitts in some way because you don't want to burn yourself. Make sure that it is all incorporated, melted very nicely, and now we're going to add a 1 1/3 cup of sugar. So we're going to have to hope that I have enough. I went shopping yesterday and didn't even think about sugar. 1. and 1/3. Oh, I have plenty. Don't ask me to make another batch of brownies right at this moment. I have plenty. Okay, put that away. Mix it in gently. Only because you don't want it all over the place. Brownies are very forgiving, very forgiving. Okay. Now we're going to add an egg, 2 eggs, large, one at a time. Mix that in. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And make sure you use good vanilla. Don't buy that cheap imitation vanilla extract. It does not have a good flavor. And if you're going to all the trouble to make brownies or anything else, you should use the best ingredients possible, because why waste your time with lousy ingredients or cheap ingredients or imitations, because it'll taste that way, and then what's the point of making them from scratch? I use butter. I use real butter. I don't use artificial butter. I never use margarine. I use unsalted butter because it's good for baking, and I add my own salt. Now here I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon. It calls for flaky salt. So I'm using this lovely fleur de sel. It's French. It comes from, I don't know, Camargue. Bruce, how do you pronounce it?
Fleur de sel.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
Camargue, France.
Camargue, France. I got it at Trader Joe's. 1/2 teaspoon. It just gives it a little different flavor. If you don't have this, then just use plain old table salt, but only use 1/4 teaspoon, because salt crystals are different sizes. So therefore, if you're using a very fine salt, it's going to take up less space than a flakier salt. So remember that. Okay. And a teaspoon of vanilla comes from Cancun. Might have to make a trip pretty soon. I'm down to the end. Or anywhere in Mexico. The Mexican vanilla is delicious. Has a very distinct flavor. Stir it all in. No electrical equipment at all. Just like the first recipe we did of the banana bread. No electrical equipment at all. Just your wooden spoon. Now we're going to add the flour. 2/3 cup. And that you want to fold in kind of gently. You don't have to be as gentle as you do with egg whites, but you want to incorporate it all. You don't want to see any more white. There. Now, if you were baking your brownies in a square pan, you would prepare your pan differently. You would take your square pan, you would cut off a piece of either foil or parchment paper and cut it so the two sides overlap, and then you would grease it, and then you would spread it in. But as I said, we're going to do it a little differently. And also, this is the point where you will add your nuts or your chips or whatever else you wanted to add to it. Hold on a second. So we're going to fill it up almost to the top. Since there's no leavening in it, the only leavening really is the egg, and it's not going to provide much leavening. It's not going to flow over the top. It'll puff up a little, but not much. You could put a walnut on top now. You could put a half a pecan, but we're not going to do that. We're going to just let it go au natural. Okay, so we've got them all filled. We now have 20 mini brownies. They're going to go into the oven, 350 degrees preheated oven, and we're going to cook them for bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes. So while our brownies are baking, we are going to make David Diamond's delicious coleslaw. I generally don't eat coleslaw because it's very mayonnaisey and I just don't like the flavor of it. My mother used to make coleslaw all the time. She used to bring it wherever she would go, and everyone would go, "Oh, Fanny brought coleslaw, let's eat it." So everybody would eat it but me. Well, David introduced this delicious recipe to me, and I have been using it ever since. David is a wonderful man. He's a friend of everybody. He is a psychiatrist. He sings magnificently. He's a cook. What else does he do? I really can't remember all the things, but he's like a Renaissance man. Very, very sweet and very giving. So the first thing you do is you're going to buy a bag, 14 ounces of coleslaw mix. It's also very easy. Dump it in here. Get rid of the bag. And 2 tablespoons of chopped red onion. So I'm not so good in the chopping department, but I do the best I can. My little 8-year-old grandson took a cooking class this past week, and they taught him actually how to chop properly by doing this, but I don't know, I can't seem to get the hang of it. So I just do my own thing. So it also calls for 2 tablespoons of parsley. And since I'm growing my own parsley, I didn't buy it. And since it's raining, I didn't go out and pick it. So pretend that there's 2 tablespoons of parsley in there. And we want some dried cranberries. About 1/4 cup. A little bit more, a little bit less, whatever. And if you don't like cranberries, you can put in raisins, I guess. But I love cranberries, and it's a wonderful addition. Okay, so that's all we need for our salad. And now the dressing, which again is very easy. We're going to take 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. Quarter cup of salad oil. Do not use olive oil. So that bell means that it's 1 minute left for my brownies. They can sit an extra second. 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's just about what I have left. 2 tablespoons of sugar. Where's my measuring spoons? I know they're here. And then 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. 1/8 of a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. And 1 tablespoon 1 tablespoon of poppy seed. Put it in a jar. Shake it up good. You can adjust the salt and pepper after it's been sitting a while. You may want more salt, you may want more pepper. If it stops raining, I'll go out and pick some parsley and put it in. It should sit a couple hours so the flavors can blend. And this is it. This is coleslaw. Put it into a pretty bowl. Isn't that beautiful? The colors are pretty. It's got carrots, red cabbage, regular white cabbage. There's red onion. There are the cranberries, and it's just beautiful. And the little poppy seeds, it is absolutely delicious. So the brownies are out of the oven. This is how you test it. You take a toothpick or one of these cute little testers, stick it in the middle. Comes out clean, perfectly clean. You let it sit for about, 5 minutes. And then hopefully it's going to come out. May not. Did pretty good. Aren't they cute? And when they cool, the outside, will get a little crustier. And that's the delicious part. Sometimes you have to coax it a little, but it's going to taste delicious anyway. So now we're going to make our fish and chips. And the first thing we're going to do is make our own tartar sauce. Tartar sauce that you buy in the store is sort of okay. I have not yet ever had one that has been wonderful. But you're going to taste a really good tartar sauce because you're going to make it yourself. You're going to know the ingredients you put in. You're not going to have any ingredients in it that you can't pronounce. So first we're going to put in the food processor. And if you don't have a food processor, if you just chop things up really fine, we want a 1/2 cup of mayo. That looks like about a 1/2 cup. We want 2 tablespoons of cornichons. Cornichons are these cute little pickles, and I call them French pickles because they're called French style, and they're not sweet, they're good. So we want about 2 tablespoons of these. Here's the label if you want to. They're not paying me, so I can show the label. So we want about 2 tablespoons. You can use any kind of pickle you want. I happen to like these. So use your fingers, but wash your hands first. 2 tablespoons. We want 1 tablespoon of capers. 1 tablespoon of capers. And 1 teaspoon of coarse mustard. One tablespoon of champagne or white wine vinegar. Let's see, a 1/2 cup of mayo, 2 tablespoons of cornichons, 1 tablespoon of capers, and 1 tablespoon of champagne vinegar. And then, of course, salt and pepper. You have to put salt into everything. It brings out the flavor, just a pinch. And then some pepper. That's it. And you put it into a pretty dish, bowl. Put it in the refrigerator and you'll be waiting for us when our fish is ready. We're going to make our baked French fries now. I like to use these nice big baking potatoes. Scrub them well, let them dry a little, and then I first cut them into thirds. And you can make them any size you want. I just happen to like big ones. A lot of people don't, to tell you the truth. They are so used to the little ones that that's all they want. And I'm using 3 potatoes. Cut it in half into cold water. Give it a little mix and then empty it. Then you want to pat them dry. So take some clean dish towels and just put them in. This may seem like a lot of work, but the flavor is so much better when you make them yourself than you buy them in a package. They're soggy and have no flavor. And then you put another towel over it and pat it really dry. Oh, here's one more. And then I'm going to dry this out because I'm going to use this bowl. The oven is preheated to 450 degrees. Put them back in the bowl after you've dried the bowl out. Get rid of the towels. And this time you want a good amount of salt and pepper. And some olive oil. Use good olive oil, extra virgin. Mix it all up so everything gets coated. Whoops. Then parchment paper, skin side down. Or in the case of these flat ones, put the flat side down. Just line them up. And then they're going to go in the oven and they're going to bake. And while they're baking, I'm going to make the fish. We'll be eating in about a half hour. How does that sound? You don't need the parchment paper. The only reason I use it is just it's easier to clean up. And since We don't have a staff of 12 in our little show. We have to do everything ourselves. So I just try to make things easier. Okay, in the oven. And they'll be ready in about 30 minutes. So here is that beautiful cod that we just got this morning at the fish market at the Clam Man. He gave me gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. So, and I'm wearing gloves, as you notice. I always wear gloves when I'm handling anything raw, fish, chicken, meat, anything. So we're going to salt it and pepper. And I'm going to make my breadcrumb mixture. A half a cup of breadcrumbs. Just plain old dry breadcrumbs. A half a cup of panko. Panko is a fairly new crumb. It's Japanese. At one time you could only get it in an Oriental store. Now you can get it anywhere. It just makes things a little crisper. And I also have a half a cup of cornmeal. And I like to use Bob's Red Mill. It's organic. And I'm going to add some cayenne pepper. Not much because I don't want it to taste like cayenne pepper. I want to taste the fish. You can use Old Bay seasoning if you want. But I'm not going to. Okay, so first I'm going to douse each piece. Maybe I'll close this zip so I don't get it all over the place. I'm going to put it on a rack. It's like going to dry. You want it to dry a little so it'll adhere. And shake off the excess as you take it off. So now we don't need this paper anymore. I have 2 eggs. I'm going to beat them just so that it's all incorporated. And then I'm going to add the fish, 1 piece at a time. Then I'm going to put it back in the crumbs. When you go to a restaurant and you get fish and chips, it's usually a wet batter. And in a lot of restaurants, they it will be beer battered actually, which can be very nice. But it is deep fried. And although the good restaurants are good about changing the oil, there are some restaurants that aren't so good about changing the oil. So you just have to go to the ones that you like or the restaurants that you trust. A lot of the restaurants in town do get their fish from the Clam Man. So you do get really good fresh fish. So that 1.5 cups, half cup of breadcrumbs, half a cup of panko, and a half a cup of cornmeal is just perfect for 4 pieces of fish. Okay, now we're going to heat, while this is drying a little, we're going to heat the oven. Okay, so we're going to fry our fish very, very quickly. We want to brown the outside, and then we're going to put it in the oven to finish cooking. We want a smoking hot pan, and it is smoking. I'm using a cast iron pan because cast iron holds the heat the best. However, if you don't have a cast iron, it's okay. Use anything. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of oil, not olive oil, but plain salad oil. I think I'm using canola oil here. And we're going to swirl it around a little bit. Make sure you use a pot holder because it's hot. And we're going to add the fish 1 piece at a time. Hear that sizzle? The trouble with the cast iron pan is that it's smaller than a regular one, but it's okay. We'll manage. We want to fry it just for a few minutes, maybe 1 or 2. We want it to turn brown. That's what we're looking for, a nice brown, golden brown look. Keep that pot holder. And it should sizzle. If it isn't sizzling, it means that the oil isn't hot enough. And if the oil isn't hot enough, the item that you're frying is actually absorbing the oil instead of frying it on the outside or cooking it on the outside. That's especially important with vegetables also. Even though you don't use much oil or butter, you still don't want it to be, the oil to be absorbed into the item. You want it to be on the outside. Doesn't it smell good? You want your oven at 500 degrees. That's very important. See that nice golden brown? Look how beautiful that is. I'm going to add a drop of oil right here. And I'm going to put the last piece of fish in. So, you can see the cornmeal on top, kind of separated out from the rest of the crumbs. Cornmeal gives it a nice flavor too. So now we're going to put the fish into the very hot oven that has preheated to 500 degrees. It's actually very hot anyway because the potatoes are in there. I'm going to take the whole skillet so I'm not getting another pan dirty, and also because the skillet is hot, and so it's going to keep the same heat, and you won't be going from hot to cold to hot, and that will damage the effect of the fish. If you're using another kind of a skillet other than a cast iron, try to make sure that the handle is oven proof to 500 degrees. However, if you don't have any of that, if you have wood, wood's okay, so that's fine, but some of the plastics are not. So then you'll have to transfer it to a tray without a rack, but make sure you've preheated the tray a little. Okay, so I'm going to turn the gas off and into the oven, and it is hot. We're going to check our potatoes. They're almost done. Another 2 or 3 minutes for them. And we're going to set the clock for 8 minutes. And we're going to set the clock for 2 minutes for the French fries, because they're almost done. Okay, we're going to take the fish out of the oven. I did check it at 5 minutes and it wasn't quite done. I don't like fish dry, but it needs to be cooked through. So we put it back in for another 3 minutes. So let's say that it fried on each side for 1 to 2 minutes, and then it was in the oven for, let's say, 8 or 9 minutes. And don't forget, it's a 500 degree oven, so it's very, very hot. Okay, let's see what it looks like. There you go. That is beautiful. I'm going to show you, see how it flakes nicely? See how it's flaking nicely, but it's still juicy? That's what you want. It has a nice brown color. And this lovely pan will keep it warm for a little bit, and we're going to let it sit there for a second. So we started the meal, the day, by going to the fish market and talking about fish. And after we came back with our fish, and Bruce actually bought some bluefish also, not also bluefish, but fish also, and it was bluefish, and he's going to go home and he's going to smoke it. And smoked bluefish is delicious. So you can eat it straight like any other smoked fish. When I was growing up, I used to eat smoked mackerel, and to me that was like the best thing I'd ever eaten. So he's going to smoke it. And then the other thing you can do with it is to mix it with some cream cheese and chives. It's a wonderful spread. And I'm pretty sure the Clam Man sells the bluefish already smoked. I'm not sure, but I think they do. And if you ever find it, you should get it. It's really a delicious fish. Bluefish is a hard fish. Once you catch it, you have to make sure that it's bled properly, and if it's not bled properly, then the fish will be have a poor taste. But if you get it from a reputable fish man, all the supermarkets are quite reputable, you will be fine. And I've never even cooked bluefish, so I don't know anything about it. And I hope you all, now that we're having a fish dinner, notice that I have a fish apron on today. So the first thing we did was make the brownies, and usually you do make anything that bakes, you do that first. So if you're planning a dinner, you make the hardest thing first, and anything that you can do the day before, you can do that. The brownies could have been made the day before, and if I were making this as a family dinner or for a company, I would have made the brownies the day before because it's easier. And the first thing I would have made this morning would have been the coleslaw, so that was the second thing we did, because you want your flavors to blend. And then I made the tartar sauce after that, because you all, again, want your flavors to blend. The fish and the potatoes have to be done at the last minute. You can't fool around with that. So this is a very lovely meal to serve to somebody, to serve for yourself, your own family, for company. And it's a flavor of Cape Cod. It's fish and chips and coleslaw and brownies, and what can be more Cape Cod than that? So that's it for today, and Bruce and I are going to enjoy this meal and hope to see you next time. Bye.